there, everyone. I'm Kara, and today I am doing a classics book tag. I saw a few videos of people doing this tag, and I decided I wanted to do it myself. So the first question is an overhyped classic that you didn't really like. So I couldn't think of a really popular classic I read that I didn't like. A few that I remember reading in my preteen and teenage years that I didn't really like when I read them were The Swiss Family Robinson by Johann David Weiss, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I believe that one's considered like a more modern classic. Um, I don't know how popular any of those are, but I think they are all well liked. Question two, your favorite time period to read about. I actually don't have a particular favorite time period to read about. A lot of the classics I have read take place in Victorian England because that's, when they were written. So I do like reading about that time period. I find it interesting. Something I do want to do though, that I'm planning to do, is to read more American classics. Like more classics that are set in America, because that's something I'd like to do. I'd like to read more about. Question number three is your favorite fairy tale. So this one, I'm not really sure how to answer, cause I thought about it for a while, and I don't think I really have a favorite fairy tale. I'm gonna say Cinderella to answer the question because that is one I've always really liked. Now, question number four is a classic you're most embarrassed you haven't read yet. So I don't think there isn't one that I'm embarrassed I haven't read yet, but I have noticed one that seems to be really popular that I haven't read yet is 1984 by George Orwell. I would like to read this one at some point because it seems like it's really popular and it sounds interesting as well, and I am interested in reading it at some point. Question 5 is top 5 classics you would like to read soon. So, 5 classics that I want to read soon that I think I'm going to get around to reading this year are The Iliad by Homer, Jude the Obscure by Thomas Hardy, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, O Pioneers by Willa Cather, and The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. I have already read books by most of these authors at some point. Question 6. Your favorite modern book or book series based on a classic? So, one that comes to mind definitely is the Mary Russell series by Laurie R. King. It's the series of mystery books. It involves Sherlock Holmes. That's why I'm putting it as an answer to this question, because I am a fan of the series. I really like it. A couple of more recent series based on classics that I really liked are one is the Jane Austen Murder Mysteries by Tirzah Price. It's a series of books that each one is a murder mystery and it's based on one of Jane Austen's novels. Like the first two books are out. The first one was based on Pride and Prejudice, the second one was based on Sense and Sensibility. The third book is coming out this summer, and I saw it's going to be based on Mansfield Park. And question 7 is your favorite movie or TV series based on a classic. So for this one, of course, the one that came to mind is the Sherlock Holmes television series, which starred Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes. So I started watching the show around the same time I started reading the Sherlock Holmes stories, and I really like the way that each episode, how closely the episodes of the show follow the stories that they're based on. You know, Jeremy Brett was such an excellent Sherlock Holmes. He is my favorite. I think he's probably the best actor to ever play Sherlock Holmes on screen. So, question 8 is what do you think is the worst classic to movie adaptation? The worst one that you've seen? So for this one, I gotta say a couple. One that I saw recently that I did not really like is the new movie of Persuasion by Jane Austen. It premiered on Netflix in the summer of 2022, and I watched it last fall, and I think it's just not a good adaptation of this book. Like, it felt like they were trying, you could tell they were trying to sort of modernize it with some of the language. And it felt like they were, to me, it felt like they were trying to make it into a romantic comedy, sort of. And I think it's just not I think they were trying to make the story into something that it just wasn't meant to be. I think if the filmmakers had made the movie an original story rather than an adaptation of Persuasion, maybe it would have worked better. But I think it just doesn't work well as an film adaptation of Persuasion. And another one that I saw years ago that I remember really not liking is in the 90s, the BBC put out this TV movie of The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. So I first read I'm pretty sure I was either 16 or 17 when I read this for the first time. I don't remember which age, but and then I watched this TV movie that the BBC made. I believe it came out in 1997. I only remember a couple of the actors. I know Andrew Lincoln played Walter Hartright, and Simon Callow played Count Fosco. And I remember being really disappointed with the movie because they changed stuff and cut out stuff. And it's just really not a good adaptation. To me, it's not a good adaptation of this book. I did see that in 2018, the BBC put out a new mini-series of The Woman in White. I haven't watched that yet, but I guess I'll have to at some point. So, question number 10, the last question. An underhyped classic you'd recommend to everyone. So, one that I don't think this one gets a lot of hype, but one that I've read a couple of times that I really enjoy is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. So it takes place in 1792. It has to do with the French Revolution. It takes place in both England and France. So it's the French Revolution. The French nobility are all being executed, but there is this mysterious figure who is rescuing some of the French nobility, who is known as the Scarlet Pimpernel. And the book is about, a lot of the book has to do with who is the Scarlet Pimpernel. That's like the big mystery. So there's some mystery, there's some adventure, and a little romance as well. It's just a really great story that I would recommend if you haven't read it yet. So that was all the questions. So, if you agree with any of my answers, let me know. Um, I'll see you in the next video.